Hello YouTube and welcome to the comic book channel. In today's video I'm going to be discussing my thoughts and doing a slight review on the new Image comic book The Weatherman #1. The Weatherman #1 came out this past Wednesday, June 13th, 2000. I almost said 2012, that's insane. 2018. Wow. It's true. Everything goes when you get old. Either way, I'm going to talk about this book, and just as a quick reminder, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. Please definitely leave a comment, leave a thumbs up if you can, and let's get on with the discussion. So this is the cover for Weatherman #1. I honestly didn't do enough homework to see if this was the A cover or the B cover. I know there's a regular and a variant. I'm gonna say I think this is the variant, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, this is the cover that I have to Weatherman #1. And now let's get this out of the way really quick. This was written by Jody Lee. I don't know how to say his last name. Lee Hoop? I don't know. Either way. And that's the same guy who wrote Shirtless Bear Fighter. All of the solicits and stuff that I saw along with this book mentioned Shirtless Bear Fighter. Of course, because it's what, the main thing he's known for. So, understood. But I'm going to try my best, except for this very beginning here, to distance it from Shirtless Bear Fighter. Because it's not Shirtless Bear Fighter. It's not anything like Shirtless Bear Fighter. It stands completely separate from that. And I don't want that to get in the way of discussing it and reviewing it. So, with that being said, let me just throw the quick disclaimer out there that while Shirtless Bear Fighter was fun and silly and, it was what it was, and I can appreciate it for what it was, I didn't love Shirtless Bear Fighter the same way that other people did. Not to say that it's because it was humorous or because it didn't take itself too seriously. I'm perfectly fine with that. One of my favorite comic books is Madman by Mike Allred. So I can completely get, that take on comic books and action and stuff like that in general. But for lack of better term, and it's going to be hard to explain, I found it pretentious. I just found it so self-aware of it making fun of itself and making fun of, that genre and that style, and it was just so aware of itself that it got in the way of itself, to me. Now I know a lot of people really liked it a lot and it got, really good reviews and stuff, so I think something like they were going for there is better pulled off in something like Grizzly Shark. I thought that was great, and it stayed on the line of being, it was self-aware that it was silly and that it was stupid, almost like in a Sharknado way, but it didn't cross that line the same way that Shirtless Bear Fighter did to me. And it didn't get into, all I mean was that Shirtless Bear Fighter was good, and it's not that it was written bad or anything like that, but it crossed the line into being a little pretentious. For me, Grizzly Shark didn't do that. It stayed away from being pretentious about what it was and being self-aware. Now, either way, I need to get away from that because we're talking about The Weatherman #1, and we're judging it on its own merits, and I just had to get that quick disclaimer out of the way because it's the same writer, and it was just something I felt I had to do, was to acknowledge it, say my thing, and move on. So either way, this is The Weatherman #1. I don't really know much about this artist, Nathan Fox, but his artwork is good. It definitely works for this book, and it's good artwork. It looks great. It's very sketchy at times. It's a little, I don't know. It seems like the world has like a little bit of like anxiety to it, but not, you know, it's not insane and sketchy, but you know, it's not perfect and well rounded and clearly drawn and stuff like that. But it definitely works for the tone of the book that I believe that they're going for. Now the colorist sorry Dave Stewart, he was like the winner of the book for me, which is weird to say because it's hard to judge something on its colors. Depending on what it is. Now Laura Allred, you can judge her on her colors because someone like that, the colors just pop and make everything what it is. It builds the entire universe just on those colors alone. So sometimes you can, but for me, he was the winner of this hands down. When I really felt parts, when I really understood like the world that I was being dropped in and stuff like that, it was because of the color. It was because of these tones and this, blanket of color placed in these panels. So A+ to Dave there. This is a really nice job. It looks amazing. So there's my little critique of the creative team and whatnot. So this book starts off, we've got another guy named Nathan. Nathan Bright. Yes, Nathan Bright. And he's a weatherman. He's a little, cocky and full of himself and whatnot. And, he's running late for work, and it seems like this has happened quite a few times. And he's being called by the news studio or whatever. And they're like, "You're late, hurry up, get here. We only got X amount of time." And of course, in typical fashion, he does this thing, gets ready for work, gets there and makes it like right in time to go on air. He goes on air. It tells you a little bit about his personality, who he is, that he is very confident, full of himself, that he is a very popular, well-liked, guy that it's very humorous and whatnot. He hits on, one of the ladies at work and comments about that and stuff. And they did a good job explaining who he was in those first, couple of pages. Again, with a little pretentious for my taste. Just in the writing here, the writing of these characters, it's a little self-aware and a little, I know, this is what we're going for, but it's only because we're making fun of this or something. Like, that's just what I gain out of it. I could be completely wrong, but that's my take on it. Like, it feels too pretentious. I feel like maybe this writer, deals with some of that either in his own life or knows someone who's a little too pretentious and maybe it's just writing to that a little bit too much. But that's just my take. Like, it's just done a little pretentiously. Either way, he does his forecast of the weather and makes a bunch of jokes, and it kind of shows you different people watching it and their reactions of it and stuff like that, and that all works. Like, it shows that he's well liked, he's comical, people think he's funny, whatever. The next part that I can remember, he walks into a bar, sees a girl who he went on a date with before, and asks her out on another date. From there, they go out to dinner, and it shows more of his zaniness, and he orders like 25 of everything on the menu and is eating it, and she's wondering what's going on and all this stuff. Now, wedged in there, we have somebody, somewhere, like a crime boss or something like that, who is, basically saying they're going after him. and that's like, you know, in the little cutscenes in between. So the next, oh, okay, sorry, I had to recollect where I was in the book. So after that, we have the two, you know, kind of walking through, Nathan and his date, who I know she was named, but I don't recall her name. They're kind of walking through, you know, like a crowded area, you know, talking and stuff like that, and there's some kind of like remembrance going on for a bunch of people that died. There was like apparently some kind of really large scale terrorist attack that either took place on the Earth or on Mars, which I'm sorry if I left that out. They are living on Mars. This is in the future, and they're living on Mars, by the way. Sorry, left that out. So there was some kind of big attack, and everybody's like paying tribute to it or whatever, and Nathan holds up some kind of light or something. You know, he's with everybody else paying tribute to that, and him and his date kind of talk for a second, and, you know, she's they're talking about loss and how they lost people, and she's asking Nathan, you know, if who he lost, and of course he's like, well, I lost everyone, and you know, he kind of makes the point that he just doesn't really want to talk about that. He tries to leave all that stuff in the past. There's nothing he can do about it now. He tries to live in the moment, and that's what he tries to do for his, you know, fans of his forecasting the weather. Is try to make them laugh and make them forget about it, and this and that. So from there we go back to what I believe is Nathan's apartment or house, and basically after that, the people in the cutscenes, you know, go in to kill Nathan. And spoiler alert here if you haven't read the book yet, because this is probably the, you know, most dramatic part or whatever. They shoot Nathan's dog, and Nathan's dog, which I also left out at the beginning of this, so my apologies. Nathan's very close to his dog. When he brushes his teeth in the morning, he brushes his dog's teeth. The dog rides around with him in the car. The dog and him do everything together. So the dog is shot and killed, and he's obviously very upset about this, which I get, you know, was a way to humanize him, make him a more likable character and all that. But again, I don't think the dog needed to be killed. I don't think that was needed for what it did in this single issue. Now maybe that will play into more in a later issue, and maybe it'll be worth it. But in this single first issue, it just didn't seem earned. It didn't seem... I just didn't see any reason for it. Now, if we're going to break Nathan down and have him, you know, in the pits of despair and all this throughout the next few issues or whatever, like, and he's really clinging on to the fact that he lost his dog and this, like, you know, maybe, but in this single issue, like, I just didn't see why we killed the dog. It seemed really cheap to me. It seemed like a cheap way to get you to care about Nathan by the end of this book. And that's my thought on it. You know, I doubt everyone will agree with that. Some people, you know, probably felt really connected to that, but to me it just cheapened the experience a lot. You know, that probably took me from an entire, you know, star or grade or whatever of where I was down one, just because of that scene there. And just because it just didn't seem earned. Either way, so that happens, and then seems like the guy who is there to kill Nathan maybe tries to kill his date, I believe, and then yes, he's like choking her or something, and then of course, you know, Nathan grabs a giant sword and stabs the guy, and that, you know, typically would be where we'd be left, you know, but then there's a twist, and it's revealed that, you know, Nathan is now being charged for the big terrorist attack, and that's the big twist in the book. And the twist was good, and it worked, and I definitely get that. They did a good job with that. What, as I said before, what they didn't do a good job with was the pretentiousness and the killing of Nathan's dog. So it's like right now it's 50-50 for me. It's going to be hard to tell because it's kind of like, those reviews you see of Infinity War where it's like, yeah, it was great, or yeah, I didn't like it, or whatever. But you can't judge it on its own merit. Like, you have to watch both parts. Well, like with this, like, it's gonna be hard to say because right now I think it's too pretentious, like I said, and I think the dog part was completely unearned. Could we get past that and it worked? Yeah, of course. So so I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna wrap it up now, and just say, 1 to 10, I give this. God, it's so hard to say. I'll give it a 6. Maybe it was going to be a 6.5 until the dog thing happened, but I'll give it a 6 for now. I'll definitely want to read the next issue and see what happens, but to me, it just seems like another one of these Image books that comes out, sounds really interesting. There's a lot of buzz about it. It sells out somewhere, or whatever. There's spec pics, whatever it is, and then no one cares after the second or third issue. It just really reminds me of that kind of thing. So I'm sure a lot of you have different thoughts, so if you do, please leave them in the comments below. But yeah, those are my thoughts. So thank you guys so much for watching. See you tomorrow.